Hey everybody, I'm Alex, and this is Dark Souls. So, whether you know me or not, you can pretty quickly tell here I don't have much of a history in broadcasting or speaking while playing video games unless I'm shouting obscenities, right? But you will see that I have some history with this game specifically. It was pretty big for me growing up. It came out in 2011, it's 2024 right now, so I was around 13 then, and just getting my first foray into scary, real video games out from Dora the Explorer. Now, I always thought this game would be really cool, with as much as I have played it and known about it, to walk someone through it that I know pretty well and just, relate to them, what I have. I thought it'd be cool to show like a friend or a coworker, a girlfriend, wife, son, grandparent, total stranger, doesn't matter. I just want to show someone that, and just to make sure it fits for you, I'll kind of try and treat you like a combination of all of those. And just take a run through, and we'll see what comes out the other end. So, without further ado, let's get started. Now, I'll tell you right from the get-go, I've done a little thinking about how I want to make this character. Oh, good. Oh. There we go. This will give you a good indication of where my brain's going to be at playing through this. So typically, when I go through these games, I like to go my first run through on something called a quality build, which is where you try and take just, big weapons. It takes some of the main physical stats. Don't bother with magic or anything like that. I think I want to take sort of an interesting approach to it this time. I'm going to go for a cleric knight type build. I think this tends to be a pretty effective way to run through the game if it's your first time, actually, just because you have some healing magic on your side, and honestly, your damage performance later in the game will be about on par with most normal builds you'd have. So we'll stick with that. For the gift here, you can see there's quite a few options. If you've ever played this game before, you probably are well aware that Master Key is pretty much the only choice here that has any long-term consequences, as far as I understand. So we're just going to go with that to have some options. I don't really know what it's like to run without the Master Key. Physique. Normally I like the character to look sort of like me. And the way this headset's fitting on me right now, I think top heavy is going to be the way to go. Face, nothing too beautiful now. Let's get that nice square jaw. That's a good looking dude. Honestly, I always like to go bald in these games. I just want to tell you right now, I am not bald. I still have hairs on my head, and I like to think 20, maybe even 30 good weeks of hair left to go on it. But I like to have this just, in case I want to come back when I'm 70 or something, and not feel like this character's out of place for me. Color. Let me get my beautiful baby gray eyes. Nice. Alright, I think that's about as good as this is gonna get. Let's get started. I'll be quiet for the cutscenes in case you haven't seen it before. They're
in the age of ancients,
pretty good.
The world was unformed, shrouded by fog. A land of grey crags, arch trees, and everlasting dragons. But then there was fire, and with fire came disparity. Heat and cold, life and death, and of course, light and dark. Then From the dark, they came and found the souls of lords within the flame. Nito, the first of the dead. The Witch of Izalith and her daughters of Chaos. Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight, and his faithful knights. And the furtive pygmy, so easily forgotten. With the strength of lords, they challenged the dragons. Gwyn's mighty lords peeled apart their stone scales. The witches weaved great firestorms. Nito unleashed a miasma of death and disease. And Seath the Scaleless betrayed his own, and the dragons were no more. Thus began the Age of Fire. But soon the flames will fade, and only dark will remain. Even now, there are only embers, and man sees not light, but only endless nights. And amongst the living are seen carriers of the accursed dark sign.
Wow, that's a little longer than I remember, but I hope you got all of that because it's all very, very important. You know, Nito, first
Yes,
of the dead.
Indeed.
Oh.
The dark sign brands the undead.
Indeed.
And in this land, the undead are corralled and led to the north. Where they are locked away to await the end of the world. This is your fate.
Probably cheaper rent than the apartment I've got now. Woo. Alright, here we are. In this jail cell, this beautiful character we've made. Yeah, I imagine a lot of people, after building their guy, think they might have toggled the wrong option. Alright, so we begin the tutorial section of this game, which I think is actually handled pretty smartly. To be honest, if you don't know video games well enough to know how to get out the door, you might struggle to get through the rest of this. But that's all you really need to know to get through the rest of this. So, we have a bunch of basic tutorial missions here. You can kind of see by the way I'm walking forward right now that my controller doesn't really work completely right, which isn't great. I'll probably have to switch out because it's randomly stopping. Oh, beautiful. Okay. I'm going to swap controllers real quick. I'll be back. Okay, we should be back in business. Yeah, you got these sweet Walmart controllers that break from holding forward too often. I just finished EDF6, so there's plenty of that in there. Let's see, right bumper to attack. Oh, this is gonna go well. Let me adjust the sounds a little more here. Like I said, broadcasting experience isn't exactly my forte, but I can barely hear myself think over some of these. Okay. Sorry if you changed your audio at the beginning of this. So, yeah, we're in the Undead Asylum right here. This is the very spawn of the game. They don't really tell you why you're here. I assume it's because they're just racking up all the zombie-looking guys, which, I don't know if you noticed. Again, I know as you tend to thin out on hair, it gets harder to see signs of aging, but this isn't actually what we looked like a few minutes ago. So yeah, I guess they just throw all the zombies into this jail here and have them guarded by this beautiful specimen here, who we definitely won't have to worry about. Alright, so you will want a working controller if you decide to follow through with me on this. It can be pretty difficult to do this with keyboard and mouse, I bet. I tend to use directional movements a lot. WASD, I've never found that to be too great for games like this. But you could sure give it a try. In contrast to some of the later Souls games that people really ascribe notoriety to the difficulty of the series with, a lot of this tends to be more puzzle solutions, I think, which is partially why I like the difficulty more on this game. Instead of being everything so twitchy and reflex-based, it's really about just being careful with your timings and try to be smart with your movements. Alright, so hope you had fun with the first couple enemies here. If you take a little peek-see up here, you can see what we're dealing with next. Yeah, kind of interesting, huh? That definitely is giving you a good taste of what you're in for. If you weren't sure by the title. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but our little shiv here doesn't exactly do great damage to this boss. Although it's actually not as bad as I thought. If you'd like, you can try and kill him. You can also see there, orange, there's a little message telling us to get away. And this lit up area that everyone seems to miss when I first introduce him. This effectively ends the fight, but does not end him. He's still gonna hang around and wait for us, but we should come back better prepared later. These bonfires here, in case you're not familiar, these kind of serve as our checkpoints. So if we die Not that likely to happen, but in the event it happens, we will respawn there. Just missing all of our souls, which you can see in the bottom right, and humanity, which is that double OO you see in the top left. So we head down this hallway, pick up our free shield, if you're a class that gets a shield. This does depend on which class you're playing as. We get this pretty sweet east-west shield. How do I read about this? Wooden shield, usually not great. Decorated with the ancient symbol of a double-headed eagle painted yellow. Yada yada yada. You can see here the damage reduction sort of in the center of the screen is what we're most concerned about with shields. That and the stability below. That just dictates how much damage is effectively reduced by the shield. Being those percentages above, and stability gauges how hard our shield is hit when it's hit. Basically, how hard a impact on our stamina it has. Stamina being that green bar underneath the red one in the upper left. Alright, so with that we can finally beat this archer guy. I don't know what we would have done with that shield. You're in trouble if you choose something else. We now pillage this corpse, get the mace. A pretty substantial upgrade, as you can see, as 91 is a substantially larger number than 20. I didn't know if I knew that at 13, but that's one of the perks that come back to this game a little later. Woo! We iframe through that. I don't know if jumping gives you iframes, but rolling does. I haven't done much of that yet, but I guess you saw with the Asylum Demon I did. When you're mid-roll animation, you actually are invincible for a brief second, which makes it actually effective as a dodging mechanism. Honestly, it's not that much faster than running in terms of traversing, but it's extraordinarily helpful for avoiding damage. And it's what a lot of people tend to completely rely upon when they play. That will not be us. I am not the most talented at timing these things out. No problem though. You can see in here we have some beautiful, beautiful set of armor that I'd like. But we can't get in. Dang. We can come down here though and open up this door. And look where we wind back up. Huh? That first bonfire we went to. This game's pretty great about that, looping back in shortcuts. I didn't notice that on my first playthrough, but it's pretty helpful now. Now I'm not sure if you can actually get through this door now, locked by some contraption. It's that demon guy holding it shut. He's not ready for us yet. I didn't think the game would let us do that though, because if we want to come up here, whoop! Yeah, I totally reacted to that. This wall gets crushed and we meet this beautiful set of armor.
You're now hollow. Thank goodness.
How can you tell?
I'm done for, I'm afraid. I'll die soon, then lose my sanity. I wish to ask something of you. You and I, we're both undead. Hear me out, will you?
The God Ray points toward yes.
Regrettably, I have failed in my mission. But perhaps you can keep the torch lit. There is an old saying in my family. Thou who art undead art chosen. And thine exodus from the undead asylum maketh pilgrimage to the land of ancient lords. When thou ringeth the bell of awakening, the fate of the undead thou shalt know. Well, now you know. And I can die with hope in my heart.
I thought you were going crazy.
One more thing. Here, take this. An Estus flask. An undead favorite.
Oh, it's certainly my favorite. This is our healing item.
This.
Oh, and that's
Now I must bid farewell.
mandatory key.
I would hate to harm you after death. So go now, and thank you.
Harm me after death. Phooey. Listen up. Oh. I thought he dies off screen. Oh! He stood back up for us. Woo! 100 souls. Just over doubled our income. Oh! This dude's soloing me. This is our boulder buddy. Ooh, another broken sword. Hold on. Is the swing always this bad on the mace? I thought I would have sort of a combo. Am I too weak to use this? Well, so one thing, I won't get too crazy in about all of our stats right now, but you don't have to use your shield or left hand, especially if you're using a strength-based weapon. You can press Y here to two-hand something, and that basically increases your strength's effect on the weapon. Wow. What is the deal with that? Okay. I don't know why I thought we had a combo with this. It doesn't matter. We can still do good work with it. I just can't believe that's our light attack. And this is our heavy attack. Okay. There's a canvas talisman. I believe you only get something there if you're playing as a class that has some sort of magic. Of course we are playing the cleric. So to cast spells, we want to assign it to one of our hands here. Now I kind of want it in our right hand. I think it's easier that way. And look, now we can cast this heal spell that we started the game with. I use my attack weapon button to use it. Boom, free heal. And that's kind of cheats early game here because, you know, we only have 5 Estus flasks used for healing. Double that amount just by virtue of having this spell. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. More tips. Here's a slightly stronger enemy here who you're meant to try parrying against. So, as you can see, using this shield, when we get hit, we still take a little bit of damage. We lose some stamina. Nothing too big. It doesn't really mess up the enemy much either. You can see he bounces off, but it's nothing too huge. You can, sort of in the blocking equivalent of rolling, go for something called a parry. Right now I'm just holding the left bumper on my controller, but if I'd like, I can try pressing the right bumper and do this kind of shield swipe thing. If you do that, right when the enemy's about to hit, you can bounce the weapon back at them, then follow them and attack as I did there to do a riposte. Big damage, looks really cool, kind of hard to do, so a lot of people don't bother. Okay, so they're telling us now about plunging attacks. I wonder what that would be for. I don't know if you've been paying attention to the geometry of this place, but we have placed ourselves right above this sucker. 2-hand for the extra damage. Dropping his head. Look at that, that's quite the head start, huh? You can smack him around a little bit. This guy looks pretty intimidating when you first start. Realistically, if you kind of just wedge yourself under his tail, there's not much you can do against you. Like a 5-second fight. I always congratulate people if they can beat it, though. With that said, we have got the big pilgrim key, which basically we just need to get out here. come outside. Look at this pretty landscape. Certainly looks better than the game did when I first played it. I think this is the Steam Remastered Edition. The intro cutscene definitely looks sharper. The rest of this, you know the way nostalgia can be. It looks great in my head from when I was a kid, but this is on a much higher definition screen, much closer up, on a more refined version, so this probably is a lot nicer. We have a free soul item there. We have this conspicuous little bird's nest here, and I think that's just about it as we traverse up the cliffside here. It's a pretty cool looking graveyard. I don't know how good it'd be to bury someone right at the tip of a cliff, but this person must have been pretty special to get a spot like that, huh?
Only in the ancient legends it is stated that one day an undead shall be chosen. To leave the undead asylum in pilgrimage to the land of the ancient lords.
Honestly, if that happened to me, I'd be pretty convinced I'm a legend too.
Lordran.
Lordran. Okay. Seems a little on the nose. Look at all this cool castle-y stuff. Man, it's so awesome revisiting this game after you played it a few times before, because you just recognize... I mean, I don't want to spoil too much, but one pretty huge thing about this game is looking into the distance, a lot of the things you can see are areas you will at some point go to. And so I recognize some of the parts there. Lordran, level up, and can move bonfires. We'll get into what all that is a little later. I guess we'll try and put our first levels in real quick. If you're following along with me, this is something that's pretty smart to do from the get-go. So, honestly, if you're first starting out, I would assign stats to get right where you would need to equip a weapon, and not much more than that. Your starting weapon you already have the stats for, and that can take you a good little chunk of the way through. Until you have to bother with that, I would mostly concern yourself with vitality and endurance. Vitality, I guess I'll go through all the stats really quickly. Vitality concerns how much HP you have. As you can see, my HP stat is going up as I allocate points into it. And the more levels in vitality you have, the more HP you get per level up to a point. So it tends to be a pretty good investment, again, up to a point for most of the early and mid game. Attunement, this is related to how many attunement slots we get. An attunement slot is basically a spell slot. You can equip as many spells as you have attunement slots at any given time. When you go to a bonfire, your spells are refreshed and you can swap out your slots. But, you know, as you saw earlier, we only had 5 uses of heal. Maybe you want to have 2 other spells. Maybe you want to have 3 instances of heal, so you can have 15 heals instead of 5 per bonfire. That's where attunement comes in. Endurance, this affects our stamina, that green bar under our health, and equip load. Equip load determines how much weight we can have equipped at any one time before our rolling and movement speed is impacted. Strength is a damage stat, as is dexterity. Basically, for weapons that have strength or dexterity scaling, they increase the damage for them. And it also determines what sort of weapons you're able to equip to begin with. Resistance, it does a lot of very small things, increasing, physical resistance, magic defenses, poison resist. I don't know if any others. It's well known as being a pretty useless stat. One I've never really seen people put points into who know anything about the game. Everything else is more useful almost all the time. In fact, I used to choose classes that had as low as resistance as possible, just to avoid having any commitment in there. But I found out that the class's balancing, I don't think counts resistance as one of the areas in which they've allocated points. Which is to say, if you have a starting class that is level 9 and has, 11 resistance versus one that's 10 and has 13 resistance, you're not paying extra levels for those resistance points. And you want to start as a lower level because each level we go up, you can see, increases the souls amount required to go to the next. So this stat's very useless, but it is good to start with a high amount of it because you're not really paying for it. Intelligence and faith are basically the strength and dexterity of magic, and again, determines what sort of spells you're able to use. And faith spells do better with higher faith, intelligence spells vice versa. To start with, for us here, I think I just want to go a little for everything. Why not? We're only going to bother with strength, I think, for this. So yeah, we'll do that. Nice. And then, if you're starting off with me and want to really, really get a good, nice head start, I'll show you one other little trick. Maybe not everyone wants to do this, but just try and follow along if you're really not feeling good about things. So, this bonfire you're at, try and follow carefully. There's a staircase to the left of this dude. We go down, run straight ahead, take a right at this little arch here, take the staircase down, and open up the door over yonder. Oh, actually doesn't need opening up. We take this elevator down, take a few steps forward, and take a step on here, let it take its way back up. Why do that, you might wonder? Well, we're coming up a different way. We go down to the bottom of this staircase here, to this nice early game area. You can tell because of these little hollow guys we saw at the very start. I don't know how that Oscar guy knew we weren't one of these. We kind of look like him, and these guys are honestly, they're pretty chill. Anyway, we'll keep going this way. La-di-da-di-da. So you see this watery section at the bridge. I want to point your attention to that cool little hut over there. Right over. Oh, shit. Right over that away. That has an item we want. Now, it's going to get a little scary when we're over there, so you might want to learn how to run before coming over. You press forward and B to do that, like the tutorial said. We're going to do just that once we see something a little spooky. Alright, ghost. We run up and around through here. And get ready. We go straight, push through, Firekeeper Soul, and away we go. Into the briny blue. That's why we level up first. This is a tutorial on death. We lost all of our souls. It's okay, we can make them back. We got something a little more valuable to compensate. We got a Firekeeper Soul. You can consume this for a bunch of humanity if you don't know what you're doing, or you can talk to this lady here. No response. She can't speak, but she can reinforce Estus Flask. Don't know if you noticed, but our Estus Flask item in the bottom left there has a +1 next to it now. That means it heals more health than it did before. This is what you do to get a pretty strong start in the game here. Again, feel free to follow along with me if you'd like. I'm not going for no hardcore challenge, I don't think. We're just looking for a pretty easy breezy route through the game, show you what it's all about, and hey, maybe have a good time doing it. If you've listened so far, hope you've had fun listening to me. I should follow up with some more of this later. Thanks, and bye.